Hey everyone, welcome to Blind Truth. Today we'll show you 15 secret cities and buildings around the world. These places were made to stay hidden, like underground bunkers and concealed cities. Let's explore these mysterious locations together. Number 15. Gao Caves. The Gao Caves are special caves in China's Shanghai province. They're ancient, carved into rocks over 1,400 years ago. These caves were hidden for a long time, like a secret treasure, until explorers found them in the 20th century. People who lived in these caves were smart. They used the rocks to make homes that kept them safe from bad weather and enemies. They had bedrooms, kitchens, and storage spaces carved in the rock. Even though they lived a long time ago, they were similar to us in some ways, like figuring out ways to live comfortably. We're not exactly sure who lived there. Some think they were farmers or herders seeking shelter, while others believe monks or religious people might have used the caves. The real story is known only by the people who were there. Number 14. Mesa Verde. Mesa Verde National Park in Colorado is famous for its ancient homes built by a group of people called the Anasazi. These homes, made of sandstone, are really special. They were built between the 12th and 13th centuries and include rectangular houses and circular underground religious spaces known as kivas. One of the most famous spots there is the Cliff Palace, which has lots of rooms and ceremonial spaces. These homes were made with pink, yellow, and red plaster and were built under a big cliff. They were designed cleverly, fitting dark rooms together to make a strong fort that was hard to attack. The people who built these homes are still a bit of a mystery, but it seems like there might have been different groups building at different times. It's pretty impressive, especially because these homes were different from what most people were used to. Usually, homes were separate and laid out in a city grid under an open sky. Interestingly, these homes were only lived in for about 100 years before something bad happened, probably a really bad drought that made living there impossible. Instead of disappearing completely, it's believed that the early Pueblo people moved south to places like Arizona and New Mexico, where they continued to build and live. Some of their descendants still live there today. Number 13. The Bandiagara Escarpment. The Bandiagara Escarpment is a long, curvy rock formation in Mali. It's about 100 miles long and stands out in the hot and dusty Sahel region. These cliffs are huge, some over 1,500 feet tall, and they change from desert to waterfalls that pour onto the plains. But what's even more amazing is that people, especially the Dogon people, have made their homes in these cliffs. They've lived here for over 600 years, carving houses right into the rocks. Some houses are simple, while others, like mud and stick mosques, are more detailed. The villages they built seem to defy gravity, hanging from the cliffs. Some blend in so well you can hardly see them, while others have thatched roofs sticking out. There are 30 Dogon villages here, and it's been a UNESCO World Heritage Site since 1989. The Dogon have kept their cultural traditions alive, like special mask ceremonies and shrines in caves. Visitors can even stay in these unique villages for a one-of-a-kind experience. Number 12. Kivan. In a faraway part of Iran, there's a village called Kivan where people live in caves like their ancestors did. They say these caves were made over 700 years ago when people hid from the Mongol army. These homes are called Karun in their language and look more like a big termite nest than traditional caves. These caves were shaped by ash and debris from a nearby volcano that erupted thousands of years ago. Over time, the ash turned into hard rock and nature carved out the caves. The villagers expanded these caves into houses with multiple floors, rooms, windows, and even porches carved into the rock. Despite being very old-fashioned, the people of Kivan enjoy modern comforts. These caves are incredibly good at keeping a comfortable temperature all year round, staying warm in winter and cool in summer. It makes us wonder what we can learn from these ancient people who seem to have it all figured out. Number 11. Varia Monastery. The Varia Monastery is like a big building carved into a rock. It's like something from old stories, but it's real. Long ago, in the late 1100s, people from Georgia made this special place for their Queen Tamar. They built it in the Caucasus Mountains because they were trying to stay safe from attackers like the Mongols. Queen Tamar wanted a safe place, so they started digging into the mountain by hand with simple tools. They made a huge underground place with 13 levels, 6,000 rooms, a throne room, and a big church with a bell tower. The only way inside was a secret tunnel near the river. The mountain outside was used for farming with special water systems. This made it hard for enemies to get in, but sadly, in 1283, there was a big earthquake that broke a lot of the place. Most of it got destroyed, and now only about 3,100 rooms and halls are still there to visit. A few monks take care of the place, and some tunnels still have old pipes that brought water. Number 10. FAL Gumpa. The FAL Gumpa is a special Buddhist monastery in a hidden valley called Zanskar Valley in India. Monks made this sanctuary by carving it into the cliffs a very long time ago. They came here seeking peace and spirituality because they felt a special energy in this rugged place. Over many years, this monastery became more and more important, especially during a time when Buddhism was popular in the area. The monks worked hard to make the sanctuary bigger and better, and it became a symbol of their dedication and a place where sacred knowledge was kept. As time went on, more people, including important leaders and curious travelers, visited the monastery. They were interested in the culture and spirituality of the East, and this place became known far and wide. Around the late 1700s, bigger empires started to have influence over the monastery, which brought some good changes. More tourists began to visit from different places. In the 1990s, just like changes happened in another place called Vitka, the focus at FAL Gumpa shifted too. They started to focus more on keeping the monastery's spiritual and cultural importance alive instead of staying isolated. They wanted to preserve its heritage and the practice of Buddhism. Number 9. Matra Monastery. The Orthodox Church likes to build its holy places in amazing spots. They choose places that are really high up or far away from others. This makes it safer from people who might want to hurt them. Matra is one of these special places. Even if it wasn't home to the second most important monastery complex in Greece, Matra would still be really impressive. It's found in the Pindus Mountains above the plains of Thessaly in Greece. Here, there are strange and amazing rocks sticking out of the ground. Matra means suspended in the air or suspended rocks. The wind, water, and extreme weather made these giant sandstone pillars, some as tall as hundreds of meters. Monks started living here way back in the 11th century, but the big monastery complex began after the Ottoman Empire took over the Byzantine Empire in 1453. Orthodox monks were scared of the Ottomans, so they went to live in far-off places. Matra seemed like the perfect place to build a monastery, like a piece of heaven on earth. At first, people had to climb up using ladders or nets. They believed that the ropes to Matra would only break if it was meant to be. Now, there are steps carved into the rock and a bridge from a nearby plateau to reach the monastery. There used to be 20 monasteries here, but only 6 are left today. 5 are for men, and 1 is for women. Great Matra is the biggest and most popular with tourists. Rusanu is smaller, but offers great views for photos of Varia Monastery and the Metamorphosis Church. Number 8. Kuber Pedy. Kuber Pedy is a town in southern Australia known for mining opals. The name comes from an Aboriginal word meaning boy's water hole, but it's joked that it means white man in a hole. People have lived there for a long time, but miners arrived in 1916 when they found opals. Because of the hot weather, many miners live underground in old mines or purpose-built houses. The town has underground churches, a bookstore, art gallery, bar, and hotel. Opals are even in some hotel walls. The place doesn't have many trees, so the first tree made of scrap irons still stands on a hill. It gets very hot during the day, so sports like golf with glowing balls happen at night. Hollywood likes the unique and barren landscape, using it in movies like Pitch Black and Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. But it's important to be careful because there are lots of holes dug in search of opals, especially when playing nighttime golf. What makes Kuber Pedy special is that it's a modern underground town, not an ancient one. Number 7. The Alka Salt Mine. The Alka Salt Mine in Poland is very famous. A long time ago, people found salt in the ground and started digging it up. Salt became really important for food and keeping things fresh. As time went on, more advanced ways of getting salt were developed. In the old days, lots of important people visited the mine. Over time, different countries took control of the mine and made it even better. But then, in the 1990s, the mine flooded and they stopped making salt there. Even though it has a long and interesting history, what really brings in a lot of visitors is the amazing artwork made by the miners. They've turned the dark mine into a beautiful place with sculptures and even a chapel made of salt. Nowadays, people from all over the world come to see the incredible sculptures and tunnels and learn about the long history of salt mining. Number 6. Aiser. Aiser is a village in Turkey that's special because it's built into rocks and caves. These rocks were shaped by wind and water for a really long time. People made their homes, rooms, and even places to worship inside these rocks. They stacked these cave homes on top of each other, making the village look like a castle. The village has a lot of history. Many different groups of people lived there over time, like the Byzantines and the Ottomans. Being high up on the rocks helped the villagers see enemies coming from far away. People didn't know much about Aiser until explorers and scientists found it in the 1900s. Their discoveries showed us how ancient people lived there. Number 5. Popa town Kavat. Popa town Kavat is a special place in Myanmar. A hermit made this shrine in the 1900s on a tall rock called Mount Popa. It's high up, about 2,500 feet, and you have to climb 777 steps to get there. This place is important in Myanmar's Buddhist beliefs because they think it's where spirits called Gats live. Gats are spirits of people who had sad endings, and they're remembered in shrines all over the country. At Mount Popa, one of the famous spirits is Kwa. He passed away because of his wild life and drinking too much. People see him as a patron saint for wanderers and people with drinking problems. His shrine is full of whiskey bottles because of this belief. Lots of people visit this place, especially during certain ceremonies. Even if you're not religious, you can still enjoy the beautiful views of mountains and monkeys. There are around 2,000 monkeys living around the monastery. They leave a lot of poop on the steps, and visitors have to climb these steps barefoot. Because of this, some people earn money by cleaning up after the monkeys. Some visitors feel that the monkey mess takes away from the monastery's charm, while others think it's important to keep the place clean. Cleanliness is important to many people, just like being close to God. Number 4. Sigura. From a place called Far, Far Away, Sigura might not seem like a lot. It's a huge rock shooting up from the ground, standing out like a beautiful picture. But if you think that's all it is, you're mistaken. Long ago, a king in Sri Lanka built a fortress on this rock to protect himself from his brother's attacks and to make his palace. Sigura, also known as Lion Rock, is often called the 8th wonder of the world. It's in the central district of Sri Lanka, surrounded by old reservoirs and gardens. These gardens are some of the oldest designed gardens anywhere. The main way up the rock is through a staircase that looks like a lion. It's a special and complicated path made of brick and wood. This staircase is part of why UNESCO named this place a World Heritage Site. Sigura is super important for archaeology. Tourists come to see the ancient paintings that are still there. These paintings are some of the earliest examples of a certain style of art from Sri Lanka. There are also paintings in caves near the bottom of the big rock. A long time ago, a king named Kashyapa built this fortress. After he died, it became a Buddhist monastery until the 14th century. Nowadays, lots of people visit Sigura, and it's usually one of the first stops in Sri Lanka trips. Even though it looks tough to climb, it's actually not too hard, so almost anyone can make it up there. Number 3. Aplistsik. Aplistsiki is an ancient town in eastern Georgia, meaning the Lord's Fortress. It's a deserted city made of rock caves that was really important in Georgian history. People started living there around 1000 BC and stayed until the 13th century AD. Between the 6th century BC and the 11th century AD, it was a big deal for politics and religion in the area before Christianity. They found a lot of temples and things related to a sun goddess they worshipped. When Christianity arrived, Aplistsik lost its importance to newer Christian places like Meta and T. But Christian buildings were made there too, and for a while, both beliefs existed in the city. After some wars and changes, it became a key place for kings of Kartal. At its peak, around 20,000 people lived there. But when the old capital, Tbilisi, was taken back in 1122, Aplistsik began to fall apart fast. It got wrecked during a Mongol attack in the 13th century and everyone left. The town is split into lower, central and upper areas, covering about 40,000 square meters. Most of the rock buildings don't have decorations, except for some big ones with stone carvings. There's a Christian church from the 10th century at the top. Inside the rock structures, there's a big hall named Tamaras Darazi, places for ancient rituals, homes and useful places like a pharmacy, bakery, prison, and even an amphitheater. Number 2. Ellora Caves. The Ellora Caves were made a long time ago and show how people were devoted to their religions. But what's special about these caves is that they're huge, covering more than 2 kilometers. They're like big, stunning buildings carved into the mountains in India. Inside, there are 34 temples, carefully made with beautiful art, statues, and carvings on the walls. What's amazing is that these temples were created between the 5th and 10th centuries, when tools weren't as advanced as today. Yet, they're so detailed and well-designed that even modern buildings might feel a bit jealous. But it's not just about the impressive carving. What's really cool is that these caves show how people from 3 different religions, Buddhism, Hinduism, and Jainism, shared the same space peacefully. They all worshipped in these caves without any problems, which was very unusual back then and even today. This cooperation made the caves even more special because it allowed them to be grander than if just one group had made them. Number 1. Xiang the Lion City. Xiang, the Lion City, is a very old city in China that got flooded and hidden underwater about 130 feet below a lake. It's been there for over 1,300 years from ancient times. Long ago, it was an important place for politics, trade, and culture because of where it was located, surrounded by mountains and rivers. But in the 1950s, the decision was made to build a hydropower station which would flood the city. Even though they tried to protect the valuable things in the city, it stayed underwater for many years. Then, in 2001, divers found it again. It was a big deal because the city was almost perfectly preserved. Houses, streets, and even detailed carvings were still there because the water kept them safe. People like historians and divers are really interested in what they've found there. The city is considered so important historically that it's now protected, and there's talk about making an underwater museum to show it to more people. Even though not many can go there, more and more people want to learn about this special place. Thanks for joining me on this mind-blowing journey through these unbelievable secret cities and buildings. Don't forget to hit that like button if you were as amazed. Remember, the world is full of mysteries waiting to be unveiled, so keep seeking, keep exploring, and keep believing in the unbelievable. Until next time, stay curious.